Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 71, What Your Task List Says About Your Business.
Oh boy. Does this sound familiar?
Oh my God, I have so much to do today.
Don't forget to breathe.
But I have almost 400 emails in my inbox and 30 phone calls to make.
Have you looked into getting a virtual assistant yet?
Oh, and I need to schedule all my social media posts.
Did you drink anything today?
I had coffee.
Did you eat today?
Did I mention coffee's a bean?
This is Small Biz Life.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Small Biz Life. We are glad to have you here. If you're a returning listener, thank you so much. And take a second to make sure that you've hit the subscribe button.
Oh, yes.
In whatever player you're using.
That way you can get more of Kristen L. Ingram.
And Jeffrey W. Ingram. It's so weird to do it that way.
Yes.
And if you are a brand new listener, thank you so much for joining us. As you can tell, we like to have a little bit of fun on our show. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please do so. So that way you get every episode of Small Biz Life delivered to you every week.
Yes. And, it's like, it saves you time. And really, a lot in the show, we spend a lot of time in the weeds with you, trying to help make it easier or find better paths, easier ways so you can focus on getting ahead towards your dreams. And one of the quick things you can do is automate stuff like this to where it just comes to you, so you don't have to go out and take the step of actually getting it onto your phone so you can listen to it while you're at the doctor's office or in the car going somewhere.
Right. And as small business owners, I'm a CPA. Jeff works in IT, and we like to automate whatever we can.
Yes.
So, hitting that subscribe button just automates that process for you.
Yep.
So this week, we've been talking a lot about dreams and limiting beliefs, and, we kind of wanted to get back into, some more, I guess, kind of back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah.
We've been very lofty.
Yes.
So far
we've been high up because one of our strategies as a company is to help you dream big, on one hand. On the other hand, we like to help you in those small, weedy spots that are tough, that people don't think of as problems in their business, but it's ultimately the kinds of things we're talking about that take businesses down. And then in the interim, sort of think smart. And so it sort of bridges the gap from the mundane tasks all the way up to the big dreams.
Right. And so, I think the thing that you're going to see as the show goes forward is that even though we're not directly talking about dreaming and, the beliefs that you need to have in order to do that, you're going to see that the dream vision is going to keep threading itself through the episodes.
Yeah. Because really, it's kind of at the core of where we operate from. And we think that for a lot of people out there, this could benefit your business as well, too. Right.
So, this week, I know a lot of people like their task list is something that they absolutely dread. They hate making them. They hate looking at them. They hate working from them. And, it's funny because since we've done the Dreamcatcher assessment, which if you haven't done it yet, you can go to smallbizlife.com/dreambig, and you can watch our video that goes through it. You can download it, right from the page. But one of the things that we found since we started really aligning the entire business with our dream vision is that we get really excited about our task list.
Some people might even think I'm a bit crazy because I talk so excitedly about creating a task list for a week.
Right. And this month in Small Biz HQ, which is our membership site, we have been exclusively talking about tasks and project planning and how to plan your week, how to plan your day. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of wanted to share some of that with you guys. And if you want a deeper dive, go to smallbizlife.com, click on Small Biz HQ, about halfway down the page, and you can check that out.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we are running since this is the first month we're doing this, we are running a
Founder Special.
So if you join in the month of January 2017, you are going to get a reduced rate for life.
Well, it's kind of the minimum cost we can really put out there. And we figure we'll start there because there's a lot of content at this point. But as a way to say thank you to the people who've enjoyed some of our content, but are getting a chance to look at what a deeper look into some of these areas are.
Right. So you get the special founders pricing for life. You get our free Mastering Your Time course that comes with it. That's a $49 course that you get for free. And then you also get 20% off any of our products or services for life.
And including stuff I do?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's a good deal.
So, if you're interested in becoming a founder, go to smallbizlife.com, click on Small Biz HQ. But, our goal today is to get you to think about the tasks that you're doing and whether or not you're really generating a task list.
Yeah.
Because that is the direction for your business. That is you consciously saying, this is where I want to go with my business. This is what I want to get done.
And so there's a group of people out there, and maybe they're somewhat similar to sort of how I came into task listing, whose obsession is with sort of freedom of the moment, agility, ability to switch back and forth. And we always see a task list as a barrier, as this thing that stops us from getting done what we need to get done because we're just checking things off of a list. And I get it. I really do, because I was very resistant for a long time. I did put some checklists together for work for really mundane things where I couldn't afford to miss something if there was a risk to it. But I didn't like doing it because I felt like it was locking me down, making my life more procedural, taking away my freedom, which is a huge thing in my life. And boy, was I wrong, because I found out that when I started doing the task list correctly, it actually started creating a lot more freedom in my life. And I'm not just talking about leaving my day job to come work for Ingram Digital Media Inc. Full time. That's obviously part of it. But, it's just, I get so much more done. I'm not ridden with guilt if I pick up the game controller. I'm not ridden with guilt when I go to bed at night thinking I forgot every other thing I was supposed to do today. A lot of that stuff just starts washing away.
Right. And, I think a lot of people use items that they don't get done on their task list as almost, as marks of failure. Mm-hmm. But the way that I look at unfinished tasks is at the end of my week, when I'm doing my planning, and we go through planning in Small Biz HQ, how to plan your week. I look at each one of those unfinished tasks and I say, why didn't I do them? Why didn't I connect with this task enough to want to be able to do it? And sometimes it's because, I put it on my list when it really didn't align with where we're going. Sometimes it's something that I didn't connect with emotionally to say, this is why this needs to get done.
Yeah. Or it's a relic from 6 months ago when it was added, that maybe at that point it seemed like an important task to do, but the relevance goes away over time. Sometimes you've either missed the opportunity, or because of the way your business has flown since then, doing that task becomes just getting work done, not getting the work done that you need to.
Right. So, I think the first thing that you've got to look at is if you don't do a task list on a weekly basis or a daily basis. And I actually do both. I do a weekly task list, and then every morning I do planning. Mm-hmm. And like I said, that's all in Small Biz HQ for this month. If you don't do a task list, essentially what you're saying is my business is reactive, right? Because I'm not proactively planning what I'm going to get done. It shows a lack of planning. So even if you've, created goals for the year, you're not saying, you know what, I'm going to put together an action plan to get those goals done.
And this is where the freedom people probably are if they don't do a task list, is they don't have one because they think, I don't need one. And the problem is you end up disorganized and your focus is going all over the place and you're not really getting anything done that you need to. Maybe a thing here or there, but most of the things that you're doing, you're either deciding to skip them because you don't see the relevance at that moment, but they're important to get done. And really, you're tying your hands, and over time, you're reducing your freedom because you're not getting everything done that you need to get to that dream vision of yourself.
Right, exactly. You know, and it shows a lack of direction, right? So if you are not consciously saying, okay, these are the next steps to put my business forward or to keep the momentum I have, your business is not going to develop in the way you want it to. Mm-hmm. And so when you're developing, you know, you can call this your to-do list, your task list, your action plan, whatever you want to call it, you need to have a plan for what you're going to do for the day, what you're going to do for the week, and how that's moving your business forward.
And really, and a lot of this comes from my experience of designing software and realizing the quality of products that I plan out versus ones that I'm just reactively throwing together. And the thing is, even when I start a task, I'll spend like 5 minutes saying, what's my best way to get through this task? I'll get the task done quicker, and I will usually have a better quality outcome from the task than if I just start winging it. And then sometimes it takes me longer than I expected because I'm remembering stuff, and then it's causing me more work to layer it in.
Right. So I think the second type of task list is, I think, what most people are doing, and it's the mundane task list. This is the, you know, oh, I had a thought, let me chuck it on a list. Then you start, you know, typically at the top of the list, and you work your way down until you get really frustrated because you don't feel like this is moving your business forward. This is where I see a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know,
and I think for the freedom people, you shift here and go, see, task lists are dumb, and you stop.
Like, wow, this sucks. I don't know why they want me to do a task list. This is awful.
Or the people who've been doing a task list but feel the drudgery of it. That's where they've always been. Is they have these lists of all of the mundane stuff they need to get done, but there's no excitement to do any of it because you look at that, oh, this is the crap jobs.
Yeah, and this is where I was last year.
Yeah.
Right? I found, you know, there were a lot of things on my list that I didn't get done. There were, you know, these mundane things, and I was just kind of like cycling through the mundane, right? And it didn't excite me. I wasn't passionate about it.
And you find out that you're not moving ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, you know, how many times do you feel like at the end of the week that you're like, yeah, I checked all this stuff off, but big deal, you know, or halfway through the week, you're like, you know, I'm tired. None of this stuff is really that important. Screw it. Yeah. I'm done. So, you know, I think, you know, from talking to, you know, a lot of small business owners, I think this is where they are. They're kind of stuck in this mundane trap. And
don't get us wrong here. You can be a successful business owner and do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Most definitely. And if you do a mundane task list, you're more likely to be a successful business owner than if you do no task list.
Right.
But understand that this dream that you've created, this job for yourself that you loved when you started, it hurts you more each and every day. And you feel the pain when you go through your task list and you look at getting your stuff done and you feel like you're getting nowhere. And it might not even be true, but it's because you don't feel anything. You know, you're just like, it's this thing I had to do. I hate doing it. And trust me, when I ran my previous business, I did QuickBooks. I hated it. Mm-hmm. When I did any mundane task, I hated it. I'm a big picture. I'm a strategic thinker. I live and dream outside of the land of details. And
sometimes outside the land of reality.
Usually outside of the land of reality as well, too. So, and you take this with a grain of salt, I guess. But the thing is, when you can connect the success of your business, the success of your life to all of these mundane tasks. Getting them done, you will find out that, wait, how am I doing this faster?
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't take me 5 minutes in Facebook to start entering deposits. It doesn't take me 5 minutes in Facebook.
You mean 5 minutes in QuickBooks?
No. In Facebook to start entering deposits.
Okay.
Because the first thing I open up is Facebook. I don't open QuickBooks up because I'm dreading opening QuickBooks.
Oh, okay. All right. I was kind of like, wait, what? Wait. Huh? Yeah, sometimes it takes me a second to catch up with Jeffrey's line of thought. That's okay. But yeah, no, I think, from what I've seen in our business with making this shift from the mundane task list to what we call the dream vision task list, right? And there it is, right? We said we're moving on from the dream vision, but we're still there. And if you haven't done Dreamcatcher assessment, smallbizlife.com/dreambig, go check that out. But it has made a huge difference in my mindset.
Yeah.
When I'm creating my task list, it has helped me to complete more items off my task list because they're meaningful.
And the other thing it's done for me too is it's helped me not neglect areas of my life. I'm a big believer in being a well-rounded person. What's the benefit of great business success if I have no relationships when I get there? What is the thing about having great relationships if over time they fade because there isn't the financial backing to be able to push forward and help people beyond our household? So for me is I can sit there every week and I can go, you know what? I'm not to my dreams. And trust me, if I was anywhere close to them, my dreams would be pushed further out. But I'm not close to my dreams yet, but I'm working towards each and every one of them. And maybe some weeks here or there, I can't quite do everything I want to. But my goal is every week I can push a little closer towards that dream vision of myself.
Right. So, if you think about, what makes a mundane task list, right? It's typically, all of those small tasks, like updating QuickBooks, posting to social media, maybe creating your blog post for the week. It's the mundane stuff that you have to get done week after week.
Yeah. The stuff that you have no connectional attachment to, because really for people, it varies. Some people love going in and sitting behind a computer and pushing data into a system because maybe they don't have to interact with people. For whatever reason, whatever's mundane can vary from person to person. But the truth is, the one consistent thing between all people is you have an emotional dislike of doing these things. And so the trick is, if you can bring emotion, positive emotion to back it up, sometimes I go over the top when I talk about loving doing stuff. And maybe you don't really get to where you love doing it, but you have an excitement to get it done because you see how it's connected. You have that positive emotion of, this is going to help me in my relationships. This is going to help me in my business. This is going to be in my finances. Whatever it is, it helps push it forward.
Right. And, typically when I'm looking at people's task list who are in the mundane task zone, there isn't a lot of growth strategy in that list. There's a lack of alignment to their goals. It's just kind of like, these are the 10 things, I had 10 lines on the sheet and I filled them in with the first 10 things I thought, that I have to do every week. And then I ran out of lines and my list was done.
Yeah.
And so when you're in that mindset, your business is not in growth mode.
No.
You're not thinking about customer experience. You're thinking about, what is the crappy stuff I have to get done this week?
And at times it'll even turn into a survival list.
Yes.
These are the things I have to do to survive. and that's all that gets done, and you do nothing else. And the problem is over time, due to attrition, that nasty little word, is the survival increases. When you live at a certain threshold, sometimes you fall a little short. And when you're living at the level of survival, that's very dangerous.
Right. Because then at some point, that becomes a desperation list.
Yeah.
Because when you're not focused on growth and you're not focused on customer experience, what starts to happen is, customers slide off, new customers don't come in.
Or maybe you don't respond to the phone calls very quickly or at all. How many times have you called a contractor to get something done in your house, and you call 4 contractors and no one calls you back? You know what? Because I'm not calling you twice.
Right.
And if you can't call me back, I'm not calling you back. I'll never call you back again. That's because they're surviving.
Right.
Maybe they're to that point where it's desperation. And the thing is, if you don't have excitement, if you don't have a thing you're living for, you don't have the emotion to keep growing.
Right.
And then when you have those weeks you fall short, it puts you closer and closer and closer to a point of desperation.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And, when you get to that point where you've got the desperation list, you're at the point where you're going to make bad decisions for your business.
Yeah. You're going to cut corners on quality. You're going to do something that is going to destroy your business. I mean, you might as well just fill out your resume at that point and start applying for jobs, because you are not in the proper mindset to live. And I don't mean that in the literal sense. You'll probably live through it, but you won't live well.
Right. And so, what we like you to do if you're in this mundane task list, mode is, come join us in the dream vision task list mode.
Yeah.
Because this has made a huge difference for us.
And one of the things, we're in a position of our life where we're leaving what Brendan Bashar would call a comfortable life. And a lot of people, if you're not in a comfortable life, don't see the problem. Like, oh, well, you had 2 very good incomes. You guys traveled, and you didn't chimp out on yourselves when you traveled. So you're just giving up some income and you can afford to do it. Where's the risk? When the risk is you get really used to like comfortable stuff.
Yeah.
And you are afraid. It's from a different perspective, a different angle, but it's just as real as people who are trying to achieve because they want to get to a comfortable life. So the thing is, there's always risk and fear, and depending on where you're at in life, it's going to look unique for you. But understand that it's there for everyone. And the best thing that you can do is surround yourself with a positive drive to make yourself bigger than you can possibly ever get. Because the psychology of it is it forces you to look at that and strive for something and keep striving. And when we keep striving, we keep innovating. We keep making ourselves, reinventing ourselves, doing what it takes to get to that next level. And when you get to that point of your mindset, you're going to thrive in life.
Yes, absolutely. So a couple characteristics of, the dream vision task list. You are creating tasks that align with your dream vision and your goals. So what that means is if you've done the dream catcher assessment and you've gotten to that last page where you're writing down, okay, this is my action plan for the next 30 days, those action items are being broken down and moved into your weekly task list.
Here's a pro tip. If you sit there and go, you know what? I'm not a very good accountability partner for myself. Just signing a piece of paper to myself saying that I'm going to get something done to make my life, my family's life better is not a strong motivator for yourself. One of your things should probably be about respecting yourself more. building a relationship with yourself, because you don't have one. You don't respect yourself. And I hate to come forward and be confrontational, even though that's one of the things I'm working on this year. I'm trying to become more confrontational.
Okay. Well, there you go. Then you're doing a good job.
But, it's, you're really, if you can't respect yourself enough to hold yourself to the agreements you make, should anyone around you expect you to hold an agreement with them?
Well, and I think you bring up a really good point, because I think people who have a lot of issues with accountability with themselves, it's completely a respect thing.
Yeah.
That, go back to what I said in my video a couple weeks ago. If you don't believe that you're worthy, then your tasks aren't worthy. Your goals aren't worthy.
And that signature you put down won't be worth it.
Right.
But you have to have respect for yourself. And I don't care if you like yourself or not. That's something to work on afterwards. A foundation of a healthy character is self-respect. And you have to get to a point where you can respect yourself enough to do it for you, because I guarantee you, if you don't respect it enough in yourself to do it for you, you will find excuses to not do it for your friends, for your family, for your clients. And they are going to realize that. And especially in your business career, you will suffer for that. And in your family career, it depends on how loving and forgiving they are. But at certain levels, you will suffer from that in your family as well, too.
Right. And, I love accountability partners. I love mastermind groups. But the basis of accountability has to start with you. And if you're having issues with accountability, you need to ask yourself why that is. Why don't you respect yourself enough to hold yourself accountable for the dreams and the goals that you want to accomplish? And I think that is a pro tip for today. So, but I really, if that's hitting home with you, hit the pause button right now and go reflect on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard for you to accept any of this other information that we give you if you do not feel that you are worth your own dreams and your own goals. And that's where I think the lack of accountability comes from.
Yeah. And it will cause other issues, like your friends and family are going to learn from you that they should not respect you, that they should not have faith in your dreams. And even worse, they might start taking that approach themselves, especially if they're a lot younger than you, your kids, or maybe they're friends of your kids or your nephews or nieces. If they see adults, they assign respect. That's something that you do, and it sort of goes away as they get older sometimes. But they will learn to treat themselves the same way. So if you can't respect yourself, understand that the people you influence might start respecting themselves even less too, on top of not respecting you.
Right. And it's interesting you say that, because we talk about how at some point in life people stop dreaming.
Yeah.
And typically they stop dreaming because there are adults around them who say, that's not realistic. You can't do that. That can't happen for you. And so when kids see that the people around them don't have big dreams anymore, that it's all about, going to work or working in the business, it's not fun, they start to lose that ability to dream as well.
Yeah.
Because they see that people around them don't do that.
Yeah.
So, you're doing this as much for the people around you as you are for yourself.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind. When you're creating your dream vision task list, you should always see growth on that list, because your dream vision and your goals are pushing you forward, right? Whether it's growing in your business, whether it's growing in your financial life, your spiritual life, your physical life. When you keep those dreams close to you, the tasks that you develop are going to reflect those areas of growth. And that's, one of the things that's on my task list every single week is 10,000 steps every day. Because that is something that I've committed to doing. I see that every morning when I review my weekly tasks, and I go, oh yeah, this is something that's important to me. Because in order for me to get to my bigger goal, of running a marathon and being in, the physical condition to be able to really enjoy Machu Picchu, right? Then, this is something that I'm doing right now.
See, my dream was to be carried up the mountain, so.
Probably by me. So that's going to push my goal even further.
Excellent, because I'm trying to support you in your goal, honey.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So creating a list like this is going to automatically build in growth, because you're looking at your goals and your dreams and then saying, how does that translate to what I'm going to do today?
Yeah. And really, as the newer your business is, the further it is away from the financial goal of the business, you're going to have more time focused on growth, focused on networking, focused on outreach. As you approach an area where the business is kind of where you want it to be, you never want to get rid of the growth tasks. They just become less time. So less of your time gets used towards that.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, even when I was, happy with the size of the accounting firm, I was still going out doing speaking engagements. I was still networking with people, because, in this field, you're always going to have a certain degree of turnover. And if you're not looking at growth, then eventually your business is going to start shrinking.
Yeah. And the other thing is when she got to that point where she had the size where she needed it to be, she could be very picky on the clients she brought in. So she would only work with clients that excited her, who she enjoyed working with, where before that, when you first start off, anyone who walks to the door, you're taking the job, but over time, attrition helps get rid of them. So you get those really cheap clients that you end up with because you undervalue yourself when you price yourself at the beginning because you're trying to get work in. As you raise your rates over time, those really go away quickly, and over time she got a better mix of clients that she really enjoyed working with.
Right. And I think that, when you're in growth mode, especially in a service-based business, growth mode allows you to get rid of products that you don't like providing.
Yeah.
It allows you to be very selective about the clients you take on. And it really gives you a lot of freedom to run your business the way you want it to do.
And also, in a way, it helps you build relationships with peers, because then when you're not interested in a client and, you have a friend or a colleague that you could refer them off to as well, too. And if they're looking for just business, they're going to appreciate that.
Right. So I think the last characteristic of a dream vision task list is that it gets you excited when you're making it, and it keeps you excited as you're going through it.
Yeah. And that's really the biggest key, is it keeps you excited as you're going through it.
Right. So the reason that we get more excited when we're doing our weekly planning and when I'm doing my daily planning in the morning, because right now we're not doing daily planning together because Jeff is already at work at that point. But I kind of see that there's probably going to be a shift once you come work for the business full time. But when we're doing that planning, we are aligning all of our tasks, even the crappy tasks, with our dream vision. And so, I really like what Jeff did. I'll give you a pro tip that we gave the folks in Small Biz HQ. Jeff is actually going through all of his tasks and he assigns them to one of the 6 areas from the Dreamcatcher assessment. And so when he's looking at his task list, he might see, update QuickBooks, but that's, that helps him with his business goals and his financial goals. Yeah. No. Well, yeah, but that's typically what happens in our house.
But there are other mundane tasks that come to Jeffrey as a price.
But the thing is, so you edit the podcast every week.
Yep.
Right. And so, and I know from having edit the podcast in the past, that was probably one of my least favorite tasks in the week. But when I tie that to releasing this content helps us grow the business. And I have a list of questions that I filter all of my tasks through. And one of those questions is, how are you inspiring people today? How are you educating people today? How are you empowering people today? And the way that I look at it is this podcast does all 3 of those things, right? My goal is to inspire you, educate you with the tools you need, and empower you to go do it.
Yep.
And so by putting this podcast out, it fulfills those 3 things, right? And in order for us to get the podcast out, we've got to do the editing. We've got to do the show notes, and those may not be the most exciting tasks when you look at them that way. But when you look at them and say, hey, I am inspiring, I am educating, and I am empowering people, let's go edit the podcast, right? So when you are tying your bigger mission, your bigger dreams to these, seemingly mundane tasks, they're much more exciting to get done.
And the other advantages too is over time, especially in our scenario where we have a partner we're doing this with, is QuickBooks to her isn't quite as odious as it is to me. Editing podcast to me is not nearly as odious as it is to her. So you start finding and going, okay, these are going to be your division of duties. Where at the beginning, even just a few months ago, she did the show notes and the editing for this podcast, and I did it for the other podcast. But now I'm doing all of the editing. She's focusing on the QuickBooks and more of some of the accounting stuff, I guess you would call it. And besides her being more skilled in those areas, they're not as odious to her as some of the technical things aren't as odious to me. So I edit the videos, I edit the podcast.
Right. And that frees up my time to do more strategic content. Now that we're doing Small Biz HQ, thinking about the curriculum that we're going to provide. I've taught for the last 9 years in higher education.
Wow, it's been that long?
Yeah, it's been that long. I was just thinking about that. Is it in? Yeah, I started in 2008. So yeah.
I can't do math.
That's why you have me, because I can math. And so, a lot of the curriculum development that we do, we'll kind of brainstorm it together. Then I'll kind of flesh it out, or like Jeff does a lot of like the worksheets. And Small Biz HQ is full of worksheets. We're Excel spreadsheets, PDF worksheets, whatever you want.
I love big worksheets.
Excel.
I love playing in Excel. I have a lot of fun in Excel.
Yeah. So, what we're doing, we're trying to provide, lots of worksheets to people, so that they have the tools that they need. And so Jeff will, a lot of times, like, I'll just kind of be like, do a worksheet for this. Right. And then Jeff will do the worksheet, and then we'll come back together and we'll kind of look at it and go, okay, does this make sense for non-Jeff? And we have had that where I've been like, let's tweak this, let's tweak that, let's kind of put this in,
I'm like, look, it's simple. And she's like, no, I don't understand this at all.
Yeah. So, but the two of us working together were able to work to our strengths.
Yeah. And so, and the other good thing is too, is like, you notice for a while we had very good show notes, and then they got a little weaker and a little weaker, and then very weak and very weak. And as we start doing it this way, the show notes for Small Biz Life have started to get better again. But that's because she can focus on working on the show notes while I'm editing. And she loves doing show notes.
I do. I like doing that part of it. Yeah. So now there's a lot of pressure that I've got to come out with really great show notes.
The show notes better be awesome for this episode.
All right. Yeah, I'm working on that. But so, the thing that we encourage you to do is to make sure that you are creating a task list that you're really excited about. And the way to do that is to make sure that, first that you're dreaming, and that even though that dream may seem so far off, there are things that you can be doing right now to move you closer to that dream.
Yes.
And if you, I go back to our story, when we were over $200,000 in consumer debt, and we thought, we are never going to get out of this hole. It is never going to happen. So, we picked up our shovels, right? And the tools in our toolbox, and we said, okay, what can we do to decrease our expenses and increase our income?
Yep.
And, we thought that it was going to take us
forever
to get out.
I mean, really, the dream back then, if you would have asked us, would have been to get debt free.
Right. And by having, the plan and working the plan and keeping the plan in the front of our minds, we paid off over $220,000 in consumer debt.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is too, as you start approaching that goal of where your dream was, all of a sudden your dreams start to grow bigger. We're thinking about taking trips to Italy to go see Mayan ruins. The dreams naturally can grow the more you can grow. So if it's your financial area growing, you're going to see further and have bigger dreams as you grow. As your relationships improve, same thing. Any of those categories, your dreaming categories, as you grow in it, your dreams will naturally grow with it, or they should.
Right. And, the pro tip, I think, related to that is that whatever your goal is, you have to dream 3 or 4 steps ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So we really started paying off our debt at an unbelievable clip when we started dreaming about all the things that we were going to do when the debt was paid off.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what really pushed us to pay off the debt.
Yeah.
When we were focused on the debt and that was the only thing we were focused on, we made progress.
And then there'd be a month here or there where you're kind of like, yeah, we're going to go out and eat a lot this month. Or
But then when you start thinking about, we're going to be able to go to Italy and see the Colosseum. We're going to be able to go to Mexico and see Mayan ruins. We're going to be able to give away more money. We're going to have, experiences like we never thought we'd ever have. Once we started dreaming beyond the debt melted away pretty quickly.
And the good thing is too, when you have dreams like that, where you have a place to spend the money, when you have issues, like when we first got together, I did not like the fact that I had a very small allowance for lunch, where most of the guys I worked with were going out to eat lunch every day. I did not have the ability to do that. I could probably do it once, maybe twice a week, depending on where I went. And it frustrated me. It really did, because it's like, I'm making this money and I can't even freaking use it. It's stupid.
Was that when we made 22 cents?
That's when we made 22 cents. And
a year.
A year. And so the thing was, when I started having other things where I saw that it could go towards, and it wasn't just a momentary gratification for hunger or for a video game or for a movie, whatever, when I had something bigger more in my brain than those things, sacrificing those things became easy. And to a point where I kind of went the other way and I needed encouragement to spend over 22 cents on anything.
Right. So, we encourage you, if you've downloaded the Dreamcatcher assessment, but you haven't done it yet, go back, because even though those dreams may seem really far away, you're putting together an action plan to move closer to it.
Yep.
And look at your task list and say, okay, why is each item on this list important? Why does it need to get done? And if you say, this isn't important, then get rid of it.
Yeah.
Even, when I look at QuickBooks and I say, why is updating QuickBooks important? Well, QuickBooks gives me historical perspective about my business. It shows me where we are spending money in my business, in our business. It gives us the ability to look at everything and say, should we really be spending money on that? Are we really using this tool?
Yeah.
And when I'm doing billing, it brings in money, which is a beautiful thing. So, when you're looking at, your tasks, when you add something to the list, ask yourself, why is this important?
How does it connect to my goals, to my dreams?
Right. And when you develop an emotional attachment with the things that you are putting on that list, you are more likely to get them done. And so that's what we're trying to get you to do with this process. Now, if you need more help, with developing your tasks, project planning, the weekly planning, the daily planning, we encourage you to go to smallbizlife.com, check out Small Biz HQ and see if it's something that's right for you. And if you sign up before the end of January 2017, you will become a founder and get all of the founder's benefits that are listed on the page.
Yeah. And when she's talking about that 20% too, that's the kicker, because, especially when I go full time, I'll be offering people business process consulting and even some technical consulting as well too. But that will be 20% off. If you're a founder, my hands will be tied.
Yep. If you are a tax client of mine, that's 20% off your taxes as well. That's 20% off everything.
Or if you need a financial consultant, for your business, Kristen's the person to go to. But, our hands are tied at that point. We have to give you 20% off.
Right. And the reason that we're doing this is because our founders are important to us, right? You are the ones that are, the thing that I find is that the people who are signing up for this are people who have been with us since the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. They're the ones that say, there's a lot of value in what you guys are doing.
We want to see that next level.
Right. They're really enjoying the content that's in there, because there's a limit with what we can do with a, 50-minute podcast. We're doing really deep dives into, these areas. And so, I'm super excited with the content that we've developed and the reactions that we're getting to it.
Yeah.
So we'd love to have you check that out. So, go through, check out your task list, create something that you're excited about, build that excitement in your business again. And we'll see you next week.
This was Small Biz Life.